All right, let's take a look at some density practice. The first thing I'm going to do is write out my equation. So density is mass over volume, okay? Or D equals M over V. So if you're solving a problem and you're given the mass and the volume, you can divide them to find the density. Okay, now, however, if we are looking for a question that is looking for the mass, then we would need to rearrange this. So density equals mass over volume. If I'm trying to get mass by itself, I'm going to multiply both sides by volume to rearrange it. Well, volume over volume are going to cancel. So volume times density equals mass. So if you're looking at a problem where you're solving for mass, then you want to multiply your volume and your density, okay? And if you're looking for just the density and you have mass and volume, you can plug it into mass over volume. So the last one though, and the trickiest one, is going to be to solve for volume. So I'm going to take this step that we already rearranged, which is that volume times density equals mass, and I'm going to rearrange it to get volume by itself. So I'm going to divide out density on both sides. So we're rearranging the equation the same way we would do in a traditional math class, but instead of XYZ, we have density, mass, and volume. So the density over the density will cancel. So volume equals mass divided by density. Okay, so this is the same equation expressing the same relationship between mass, volume, and density. We're just solving it and rearranging it so when we actually get to the question, we can find our answer quickly. So let's start with number one. What is the density of a piece of metal if it has a mass of 35.75 grams and a volume of 15.2 centimeters cubed? So I'm going to underline what I'm given. I'm given the mass of 35.75 grams. I know it's a mass because it says mass, and also grams is the unit of mass. And then I'm also given the volume of 15.2 centimeters cubed. And I know this is a volume because it says volume and centimeters cubed is the unit of volume. I'm looking for the density. So every time I have an equation like this, I'm going to list out my variables. Density, I don't know, question mark. The mass is 35.75 grams. I've identified that here. And my volume is 15.20 centimeters cubed. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look and see, well, I'm looking for density, so I'm going to plug it into this one. Density equals mass over volume, and I'm going to solve. Density equals 35.75 grams divided by 15.20 centimeters cubed, okay? If I plug this into my calculator, 35.75 divided by 15.20 equals, we aren't concerned with sig figs in this, we're just practicing calculating density. So I'm gonna always ask that we go to 2 decimal places. So 2.35 is our answer. The 1 does not round the 5, so we stop there. And then our units are grams per centimeter cubed because the units here don't cancel. And the units of density is how much stuff there is, mass, and how much space there is, volume. So this is our answer to our first example. Now let's take a look at number 2. What is the mass? So I'm going to be looking for mass of a rubber duck if it has a density of excuse me, 0.3 grams per milliliter. And I know it's a density because it says density, but the units are grams per milliliter. And that's always a unit of density, or I should say it's one of the units of density. And a volume of 25.0 milliliters, okay? Again, I know that's a volume because it says volume, but it also is the units of volume, which is milliliter. So I'm going to list out my variables. Density equals mass equals volume equals. My density is 0.3 grams per milliliter. And remember, every time you write a number, you write a unit. The mass, I don't know. That's what I'm looking for. And the volume is 25.0 milliliters. Okay, so we rearranged the equations at the top, but I'm just going to show it one more time here. We know that density is mass over volume. But if I'm looking to solve for mass, I'm going to rearrange this. So I'm going to multiply the volume off the bottom. So volume over volume cancels. And what I'm left with is volume times density equals mass. All I did was rearrange it. So now I'm going to plug it in. My volume, 25.0 milliliters, times my density, 0.3 grams per milliliter. Okay, now before we solve, let's talk about the units. Milliliters over milliliters, like a numerator and a denominator, will cancel. And your answer is left in grams, which is what you're looking for, considering you're looking for mass. So now I can plug this in my calculator. 25.0 times 0.3 equals 7.5. And my units, the only ones left that I didn't cancel, are grams. That is my answer, 7.5 grams. Okay, let's look at one more example. What volume of wood would have a density of 0.55 grams per centimeter cubed and a mass of 73.4 grams? So I'm looking for volume. That's what it's asking me to find. I'm given a density, and I know this because it says density, but then these are also the units of density, and a mass of 73.4 grams. So it says mass and G for grams. So let's list out our variables. Density is 0.55 grams per centimeter cubed. The mass is 73.4 grams. And the volume is the one we don't know. So I know we rearranged it at the top, but I'm going to do it again here. Density equals mass over volume. Now, this is a place where lots of students make mistakes, is solving for volume, because they want to divide out the mass, but that doesn't actually give you volume. So what I suggest is move this off of the bottom by multiplying both sides by volume. So they cancel on this side, so we no longer have a denominator. Volume times density equals mass. Okay, now if I want to get volume by itself, I'm going to divide out my density. So volume equals